Thank you very much, Emma. So I think with that we can get started. So let's move to the first slide of the substance of the presentation. Okay. I have to say I'm very impressed by the group because I see that we have a lot of experienced colleagues from different areas, also from corporate level of customs administrations and also from the World Customs Organization. So there is quite some expertise in the group. You see, I'll be touching on a variety of issues of customs reform because I would like to put it in a context. In the context, I hope this would help to exchange views between us also in the course of the presentation. And now we'll also leave some time in between slides in order to give you the opportunity to share any thoughts that you have, any remarks, also from your experience, because it's the benefit of the group that we have from so different countries all around the world and with different models from the things that we are going to discuss. Customs administrations, as you know, face very similar challenges, and they are also more and more interconnected. In my presentation, as shared with my introduction before the course, I will touch upon several, I would approach customs also from the perspective of the EU single market, meaning that coming from the European public administration, the customs union is a foundation of the single market, which is a market of goods, but also on services. And there is a wide range of regulations and obligations that coming from different sectors that become more and more impactful on customs matters. And this is because of the nature of the EU single market. EU, of course, European Union, of course, is a very important actor in the world because they are 1/10 of the population, as you're probably aware, and the European Union is in charge of about 1/6 of the international trade. But when I say that's the word a new EU customs union, this is something that I mean that we are, of course, not sure that it will. That's where we are heading, of course. But one of the issues that I highlighted by sending the reading materials is the new paradigm of customs management that is merging with the reforms that now on the table in the European Union. And I believe these are pioneer reforms in the world at large. I will touch upon issues that relate data-driven customs, as you probably could imagine. And then I'll move in a nutshell what not EU customs reform is about, with some highlights of the main elements and objectives that they seek. I would also touch upon the green and sustainable customs, a very broad area that has more and more impact on customs processes and procedures. I would like also to share experience with you about the new view of how customs would partner with trade, and also to open the floor with some questions for the future. Next slide, please. I have prepared 3 case studies for the practicum. So depending on the time, I'll try to leave much time as possible for you to discuss and to touch upon these case studies. Please bear in mind that I have formulated them in open case studies. So I don't expect from you to make formal submissions, but rather to identify issues that for you are very relevant for the answer of these questions, and also to add from your experience how you see the answer. So it's very much, as I said, an open question that aims to reach a specific objective without being, of course, strict in its format in the current for the purposes of the course. The first case studies is about a compliance program for online sale of Brazilian imports on the EU market. The second assignment is about sustainability requirements to structure the supply chain in the automotive industry. And the third element is about customs management capabilities and customs innovation programs. Issues that you take into account are, of course, customs requirements, customs processes, typical customs management matters, but also in the broader perspective of regulatory compliance and trade compliance, data flows, the important role of prohibitions and restrictions, both in data terms, but also as regulatory requirements, and digital transformation and organizational development. I'm very glad that we have in the group people who are colleagues who are specialized also in leadership and in strategic and organizational development. I believe that they could add very much from their experience as well. And we have even more interesting discussion. So we have moved to the next slide, please. So I would like to start, of course, with the challenges and opportunities for customs and how we probably are moving to something that uh, that is called a new paradigm for customs. I would say from the outside that this doesn't come um, bluntly in the presentations or any presentations that you see about the EU Customs Union, but in publications and presentations that colleagues that work immediately on the proposal disclose, you would see that this is perhaps where we are moving on. For that, I would say something a bit further, but let's move to the next slide, please. In this slide, I am trying to put the customs in the perspective of public administration and governance. Several years ago, John Braithwaite published a book about responsive regulation, in which it made a kind of a pyramid, as you kind of see, of the way that regulators interact. On the bottom of the pyramid is the learning and skills building that's very much close to the capacity building, also, which is, of course, in government matters, a more structured program based on standards, implementation outcomes, and monitoring of results. In this case, it is more broadly applied to any governmental activities in terms of creating capabilities to react to challenges and to reach organizational objectives and governmental objectives. The second, this on the second layer, these all objectives and skills would not be of full use if there could not be applied responsibly by the citizens. So that's come where compliance come from into effect. Then the rational actor focused on deterrence, close to enforcement actions. And finally, at the west pyramid is this assumption about reaction against the incompetence or irrational actors. So around this pyramid of structures, regulators have been discussing how to build up different objectives together in terms of regulatory policy and regulatory actions in order to reach specific outcomes in public management and public policy. Of course, in customs, these elements come with different aspects in the customs role, because the role of customs is very much becomes more and richer and richer with the time. It is now long past the time where customs were in charge only of duty collection and responsibilities for revenues and including generation of revenue and also its allocation for specific objectives. The control and supervision that customs perform nowadays, as you experience in your daily lives, are very much spread about on enforcement of different policy in actions. We have colleagues from food safety. This is a core area where customs and veterinary and agricultural authorities closely cooperate and very much align their practices and business processes, at least from my own experience with the animal health in the European Union, and also with the food safety requirements that are closely related to it. But in some respects, as this is the case, for instance, with the Dutch customs authorities are directly assigned with responsibility on behalf of other authorities, which is requires quite a broader action on the ground. Compliance is more and more important because from a government perspective, it is indispensable for the implementation and enforcement of legislation and other binding regulations. But from the business perspective, which is coming of high and high importance, is that compliance has to be also reasonable. And in the newly emerging issues of cooperation and customs and trade, and the development of supply chains, as you are aware of your daily practice, business practices and regulation have to be aligned as closely as possible in order to make customs operation more feasible for business, but also to reach solutions that finally enable the implementation of the customs legislation and the customs requirements. The integrated border management comes as no surprise as a development in the customs. It has been for a number of years. Integrated border management is a term which is used in the European Union in order to highlight the cooperation and close collaboration, including data exchange between border agencies. And the WCO has made a lot of work on the area which is called similar on the other side of the same concept, which is called cooperated border management. However, customs being much more closer to business processes and being embedded in operations have more and more pronounced role of ensuring competitiveness of economies worldwide through the contribution of customs to diminish the red tape, simplify procedures, and smooth movements of goods across border, but also equal treatment of operators that has been along, for instance, the case as to the relation between postal operators and trade and express couriers, but also between between citizens themselves. And finally, the investment in customs capabilities is of direct contribution to trade and investments and developing of and supporting of strategic capabilities of governments worldwide. So moving to the next slide, please. For the challenges for customs administration, they are known to relate to the volumes and of data across borders, and for the, of course, for the increased traffic, especially in specific border points, making importance to develop innovation and effective border management, even in very small details and border crossings, such as the shaping of the cabins for customs officers and increasing supervision in any single details. However, the biggest challenges for customs, they come in e-commerce and the new digital and real-time economy that is associated to new business models, where the payments, for instance, is directly at the heart of the business model, which was not the case with the traditional trade. And the second biggest issue, which I've put in red in the presentation, is compliance and the role of prohibitions and restrictions. Prohibitions and restrictions, at least in the European Union context, refers to the broad range of requirements that come from different legislation. For instance, food safety, any veterinary authorities, climate change, illegal logging, forced labor, human rights, and more and more and more. In the European Union, I believe it was counted to have more than 345 rules that come to customs authorities to apply so different legislation. And this touches upon not only understanding and applying the rules on substance, but also aligning business processes, creating business process models, adjusting the IT systems. This is quite a significant work and quite a daunting task for customs administrations. The challenges come from ever unpredictable crisis. If we take some of the preparatory uh, scientific scenarios on which the European customs reform has started, I personally see that we are probably in one of the worst case scenarios where in Europe we have one war which is at the border, migration, um, increased migration flows, and the new migration pact, which has been discussed and just adopted in a few months time, and of course the pending risk about related to climate, environment, and the movement of people across the world. One issue that has been very much into the press recently is related also to smuggling and crime, especially the drug trade. Guardian published only 1 month ago a very detailed report on the, the the trade in cocaine which comes to Europe, and the ciphers that were cited in this report and analysis were as about 30 tons of cocaine crossing, coming through the port of Antwerp into Europe for less than 2 years. And the UK, the number referred even for shorter, the same quantities even for a shorter period. This puts on the table that customs, the control on drugs that customs perform affect not only the movement of goods and illicit trade, but also developed uh, developed criminal networks that intensively also use trade in slavery of people, exploitation of children, and abuse of immigrant routes along the in the world. So the people's role, perhaps the people play perhaps more role also in customs policies and procedures, as the role of customs also expand. Next slide, please. I have one example that is very much related to my very personal experience. I'm born on the border um, of Bulgaria and Turkey. This is one of the heaviest borders in terms of customs effort in the world, I believe. At least 10 years ago, this was the second, we had the second most intensively charged border after the one between Mexico and the US. But recently, we have experienced, my country of origin has experienced a serious, significant flows also of people, which come in numbers that significantly outperform the average village in the area. What you see on the picture was also a waste. Uh, People who cross the border, they simply cannot proceed with all the baggage that they're carrying, so they just change clothes or reorganized. And the once a mountain that was very much pristine and clean became overflown with garbage. So the waste is something else that comes along with movements of people across the border. So it is associated, as you can imagine, with use of drugs, with um, mo- illegal movement of goods across borders, and also with deaths of people and so on. That is why integrated border management is gaining such an importance, because without cross cooperation between agencies with direct responsibilities on the border, and cooperation with third countries, especially with bordering countries on the ground, but also with different countries that are responsible with topics that comes along migration and border and movement of goods routes. This is not it's not feasible to solve the problems that that are really associated with borders nowadays. In interagency cooperation in the European Union, there has been, if you follow the topic, there has been a lot of advancement in the migration legislation with the data exchange of also biometric data, of documentary requirements related to visas and also other the data related to Eurodac, which is database and similar. It's a big package of migration legislation, which also directly related between customs and border authorities. The technology, of course, plays more and more role in management of borders, and hopefully also we'll have other solutions to cover all the legislation that becomes applicable in the borders. Next slide, please. I started my presentation with the customs related to the European single market. This is very much very simplified illustration of the different aspects that regulators in Europe would take into account when customs legislation is implemented. On the one hand, I will just in a while. I'll read the chat and give you the floor in a few minutes. This single market has two big pillars, let's say. The one is the digitalization, which is related to digital transformation of customs authorities and also to public administration as such. Digital transformation is related to the adoption of specific acts, but also software measures and standards, such as the standards for data governance, for interoperability, and a number of acts which make part of a whole work program in order to enable digitalization of public administration and the European institutions as such. One of the recent achievements, which a pioneering example in the world at large, is the newly adopted Artificial Intelligence Act. I believe it is the first in the world, which sets rules for risk management of artificial intelligence adoption, for criteria for distinguishing and managing different level of risks, and this sets also the basis for responsible regulation in terms of artificial intelligence. Digitalization is also very much related to innovation. Innovation meaning programs, solutions, technologies, but also innovation means funding. And in this respect, the European Union has one of the most ambitious funding programs, which also is open to cooperation with Canada and with other countries, such as Switzerland in the world, in order to boost the innovation and innovation cooperation. Another important issue is privacy and the protection of data, which is absolute importance and has more and more impact in framing customs legislation. On the other side of the balance, let's say, is the green agenda. The green agenda is based on a package of 55 pieces of legislation, which relate to various areas, starting with food safety, passing through batteries, production of hydrogen, phasing out fossil fuels, and building different scenarios on this replacement, circular economy, and so on and so forth. The implementation of this agenda has become very ambitious for public authorities and for governments in the European Union. And today, if you follow the news, our candidate Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is proposing her agenda, and we expect a hearing at the European Parliament to see possible prolongation of her mandate for yet another term. One of the trade-offs in the political settlement in Europe was that the green agenda should be more pragmatic, because there has been a lot of policy challenges, political challenges, of difficulties to implement the legislation, and needs to have a more pragmatic and more phased, perhaps, approach that would enable business and other actors to comply with the agenda. And this is just a simplified picture. In addition to that, as you would say, you should see we have different challenges for responsible government, with responsible regulation, the role of data sovereignty, criteria for interoperability, extremely important for digital solutions, and also the data roles that are important of any part of data strategies, and data governance in customs, and trade, and in public administration in general. The most direct impact, perhaps, on the green agenda of customs will come from cross-border adjustment mechanism, which is now coming into implementation, the European Union sustainability agenda, which follows up to the UN agenda and environmental, social, and governance criteria, the newly adopted due diligence legislation, which imposes on business a broad range of compliance requirements, coming from broad areas such as human rights, forced labor, and environmental protection, and the implication also in the area of corporate social responsibilities. I would like to tackle now the question that we received. Just a minute. This is Humberto. Humberto, would you like to say to present your question yourself, perhaps?
Yeah, so I'm posing this question basically because this approach, so the approach of border management, integrated border management, is a central feature of a proposal of my research project. And this is due to the fact that as customs officers at the airport, we really face a big issue, specifically with respect to lack of coordination among border control agencies. And this is why I am proposing a new approach aimed at enhancing the coordination of these border control agencies.
When you say enhance the coordination, in this respect, on the digital side, on cooperation side, that I believe that's quite some aspects that you can touch upon, and by no means extremely important issue. I personally would be very interested to look into your conclusions. Would you like to share some of the biggest challenges that you have identified, if you have reached to so far in your research?
Yeah, of course. As I said, so I'm not so sure whether to to say that more cooperation and more collaboration can lead to enhance the coordination of these border control agencies that are deployed at this airport and are facing uh, big difficulties, specifically with controlling passengers, international passenger entering and leaving the country. And that's why I'm not so sure whether to say to conclude. So in order to conclude, so obviously I will have to do a research about this topic of cooperation and collaboration, coordination.
Maybe one clarification from my side. Collaboration means a lot of aspects. One of the things that comes on the table and is very much worked on, and I have seen it from customs, but also from tax administration, is IT collaboration. IT collaboration is based on several standardized frameworks, which allow for reuse of data and from framing processes, and in order to ensure data reuse. I mentioned in maybe not so clearly, for which I apologize. For instance, the information that comes from visa data could or biometric data could be used under certain conditions, and that's why we have cooperation between a number of body agencies with regulated, of course, data access, data exchange, reuse, and whole data compliance program, such as regulations which are responsible for customs management, regulators that are imposed. That are related to enforcement and prosecutions in the European context. This is Europol. Um, the management of special also databases. So this forms part of course, very much related when you say IT collaboration, for instance, to the data management of different organization, but also to data governance and governance of IT governance in a more general term. We have several frameworks which are established in international level that facilitate the adoption of such solutions. So I when I say collaboration, I tend to say to see it from different perspective. But I personally believe that coordinated border management is indispensable to achieve the smooth and smart borders. Unless I misunderstood something, it's also possible. Can we move forward? I'm available for further questions also. Please don't hesitate to send me emails and to have some discussions for some follow-up, whatever you would find it useful. So I find it a kind of a marble cake of the different, sometimes contravening aspects and objectives that customs face. In the first thing, it's difficult and very sophisticated balance between trade facilitation and security. How to facilitate and simplify the business of legitimate trade, and at the same time make security checks and enforce customs rules and procedures. In a more broader aspect, trade facilitation and safety and security controls also interact with safety of citizens, product safety requirements that are very closely related to market surveillance and to market and to putting goods on the market in the European Union as such, and also the sustainability requirements. They refer to a number of 17 goals in different aspects, and I'll touch upon later in the presentation in the way that have gradually the sustainability agenda has crept into the European Union, and now we have it in our policies in action in a more and more pronounced way. And from a government perspective, also from public administrations, because revenue administration, they modernize themselves as well. And this is one of the area which is on the agenda of International Monetary Fund, of the European Commission as such. In the broad aspect, of course, we have the traditional enforcement mandate of agencies, but also the balance between the rights, the right of legitimate trade, and the equal treatment of citizens and of economic operators as well. The next slide, please. So in this heading towards a reform of the European Customs Union, there is always a risk management that has to be performed. And this is, I say, in a more broader sense, rather than risk management for safety and security or financial criteria risk management, as colleagues who work specialized in risk management would say. This slide actually refers to some studies that has been done by agencies such as Boston Consulting and McKinsey about the different challenges that that administrations, public administration face. Putting this criteria on the arrow towards a broader management of the risks in framing the agenda of public administration and implementation of customs management in more specifically differs across regions. It is one percentage that would be given in countries of the European Union, and the other percentage would be given in Brazil. Depends on the level of economic activities and the specific of the region, as well as a number of more specific criteria. Generally, however, it emerges that one of the most serious challenges for public administrations is the cybersecurity. Another regulatory issues that comes for is a big challenge for governments. It's the regulatory compliance and the explainability of the legislation. I have seen in my practice over the years that this is indeed extremely important for business operators to have the ability to comply efficiently with a number of legislation, but also to understand what the rights and the duties are, and to be able to make a reasonable compliance programs and to adapt its processes. As you can imagine, it is associated better regulation, burdensome regulation is associated with significant costs, and they in the customs area they have also their the digital shadow, so to say, digitalization of rules and procedures is a rather costly endeavor. Another issue which is a risk for public administrations, for organizations, is the issue of, but also for the industry as such, is the organizational reputation. Hence, the role of codes of conduct, voluntary compliance, that comes more from tax administration, but has more and more implications for customs as well. One point perhaps to learn from different revenue administrations in different countries, the sustainability, geopolitical strategy, political stabilities, and so on. I'm sure that from your experience, you would have different also risks that come on the table when the governmental program and customs management more specifically comes into play, and making a strategy for organization, it becomes more complicated and complex task. Next slide, please. However, when we move to changing the customs landscape, adopting solutions that are feasible for organizations and for business alike, has also its opportunities. The dealing with data comes to the solutions that we need smart solutions for customs. Ultimately, this would be the replacement of customs declarations that we know it, and moving towards customs working with business data rather than with structured decoration in customs decorations, structured data in customs decorations, creating capabilities, a key issue for customs administrations, and their modernization, and ultimately for a new governance model, which is both on IT but also strategically and data aspects. One of the areas which is one of the issues that's currently very much discussed in academic community and research is data governance for trade and for customs. From the supply chain perspective, in the last years, after the COVID crisis, supply chain have seen disruptions and significant restructuring, both from the perspective of finding new suppliers, but also from finding also locating supplies not only in places where geographically feasible, but also where the regulatory conditions allow for framing of different models. In logistics, the principle of just in time has been very much adapted also with the so-called logistic concept of just in case, which relates to stock management and new technologies for warehouses and storage facilities. So we are in a situation where COVID facilitated new models and solutions, temporary measures such as green lanes, also investment solutions that needed a more speedy result have been adopted on the recommendations of the World Bank, European Commission, International Monetary Fund, and governments across the world. They have been recommended as proportionate and temporary, but some of them has become permanent solutions and even enabled the adoption of new measures that now very much relate to the sustainability agenda. Next slide, please. As now, before I move to the next section of my presentation, I just opening the floor if you have any comments, questions, or just want to share some experience immediately. Okay, if there are no questions, we are moving forward, and we can come back to any issues that you find relevant. Next slide, please. Some of these topics I already mentioned in the previous slide, but they are at the core of the customs modernization. And while, for instance, a smart border, smart logistics have been a priority to individual customs, for instance, there has been some of the countries bordering Russia have made demands for technical support in the European Commission for smart border solutions already 3 or 4 years ago. I'm very happy to know that now the World Customs Organization has been engaged very closely with the development of smart borders concept, because it also is a possibility to implement to develop solutions that are available to customs in order to manage borders more efficiently. One of the occurrences and evidence of the need for such solutions is the Ukraine crisis, where the temporary protection directive and the immediate proposals that the European Commission adopted had some elements of putting further in play, further in geographical place, the border controls, and in order to really to introduce some relief of the pressure of movements of goods and people across the borders. Data and analytics are at the core of customs capabilities, and these all solutions that are put in a simplified form in this slide require from customs not only to develop capabilities, but also to develop programs and to ensure investments for the agile elaboration and deployment of such solutions. Next slide, please. When we say about data-driven capabilities, I have set 3 group of issues that has examples from customs administrations in and very much there is some academic research that has seen uptake in customs administrations. On the first column is the importance of the data source. Well, the customs legislation initially was very much framed about responsibilities of specific persons, especially the import and export procedures. That was the need to identify the importer, to identify the exporter, and to determine its location. And then this is a kind of an anchor for the specific elaboration of customs processes and procedures and their business solutions. there is a big movement a bit from more structured data, uh, which is put traditionally in the customs declaration, to the use of structured data. And one of the issues that you have probably read in the materials that would be the outcome of the changes that comes to the customs management would be movement to the use from the structured data of the customs declaration to direct use of the business data. This would not be possible and without ensuring the quality of the data of the source for the traceability and transparency and visibility of the structure of the data flows, knowing also who is the custodian of data and ensuring visibility throughout the data flows in the supply chains. Uh, this is quite an important issue that also facilitate real-time processing of data, which is especially important also for customs and for the VAT compliance. And customs use more and more external third-party data from especially in the risk management, in the area of risk management. Therefore, to enable the use of third-party data, it's very important to have possibility of data exchange and data compliance programs, which would facilitate such solutions. Also, the variety of data, for instance, very few customs administration work with purchase data. That also is something for the data governance programs of customs administration. There has been issues that has been dealt very much in detail by customs research. I have cited Profile project, and the results of this project are used by the European Commission also for modernization programs and specific customs administrations, which have applied for technical support to the European Commission. So when we, in terms of building data-driven capabilities in specific customs administrations, this research has identified three main pillars. This is the data analytics capabilities, such as smart engines, solutions to distinguish different types of data, and to use, of course, different ways to efficiently reuse data and secure interoperability between systems and between system operational systems. The second place comes the importance of data linking, and thirdly, the connection between digital infrastructure of different stakeholders. The European Union has the example of the ICS2 system, where there is a trade interface and the possibility to use multiple filing solutions for the customs clearance. In the final column, in the final column, I have mentioned some specific digital solutions that I have come across through my practice and currently deployed in specific customs administrations in the European Union. The most interesting and most promising are the solutions that facilitate the twinning between the digital and the green transition. Such a solution is a data pipeline for the circular economy that is currently developed in the Netherlands. This is a digital infrastructure for the circular economy where the data traceability comes from the source already at the manufacturing process. And then it is staged from different industries to test, to make to make tests, and to gradually introduce the concept and to deploy it in practice. It starts with the automotive industry and then move to the batteries and even with building industry and possibility to implement to further. One of the contributions of such solutions also a legal contribution, because this concept allows to test the so-called extended producer liability, because of the way, for instance, the supply chain are structured. A supplier of the automotive industry, the automotive industry based in one member state, such as Germany, would use suppliers for the automotive parts in different member states or in outside of the European Union, and uh, the the way the supply chain is structured would allow also for liability, and if there are legal guarantees, then the deployment of the implementation of the technical solution is more is feasible. From the technology side, the sustainability requirements and due diligence also touch upon the business processes and the developments of capabilities. On the one hand, this is the work with data which comes from ever more, ever broader sources from different legislations, which is managed and is the responsibility of different agencies. But on the other hand, the sustainability requirements are associated with the elaboration of data models and data of business processes, where again traceability and transparency is of big importance. The United Commission in Geneva is developing such data formats. UN CFACT forum, it is called. They have a set of standards which are already almost at the final stage and had been presented recently in the conclusions of the forum. So they serve for inspiration and give solutions to administrations for further implementation. Some of the issues that you have seen in practice, of course, blockchain, trade lanes, and different digital infrastructures in a different scale, which apply developed in practice. Next slide, please. I would like now to say a question to you. What comes to your mind when you hear digital transformation? Nobody
Okay.
should think of how we have some colleagues who deal with that. Paperless, yes. So this is more digitalization, it's called. So putting.
May I also? Yeah.
Yes, of course, go ahead.
Yeah. So making the things more transparent, faster, and having everything with the time stamping. Many a times in the office environment and in the government setup, the location of file or the matter is not traceable. When we come to a digital environment, then every step is time stamped, and responsibility on the part of government official goes on. So in addition to that, it leads to the transparency in overall working as well, in whatever other things we count on that, faster, better, and storage is like untampered without human intervention or the local intervention. The records are kept at the central nodal point, which can be fetched for data analysis at a later point. So these are there are a lot many, but these are some of the few important key takeaways that we think about the digitization and we see also happening.
These are relevant points.
Yeah, thank you.
Doing timely and unprejudiced handling of data. Yeah, this is setting standards indeed. Somebody else would like to say something? In fact, I would like to say that digital transformation in policy perspective is broader than digitization. It takes into place first everything, the digitalization of the environment, the building of skills, of course, to build up digitalization, but also implementation of set of rules which are subject to already to big separate in elaborate standards developed by independent institutions such as the International ISO organization, which probably you're aware of it. And with each and every regulatory standard that you have, these standards, they extend, elaborate, or you have supplements. At the core of the digital transformation is the data policy. Let's start from there. And this also has been the way the European Commission has built up gradually its digitalization at corporate level. The data policy covers issues such as data management and data governance. The way data is, the way an organization is made aware what kind of data exists there, what are the type of data which use different departments, how this data is organized, how it is stored, and how it is exchanged between the departments and with third parties. What is the role of open source? What are the open data? What is the role of open data in the public administration? These are all issues that come with the data management. In addition to that, there is the role and responsibility of different actors: data owners, data stewards, who are responsible for the movement of data, and also a lot of networks of data responsible persons. So that is the biggest organization. The management of these stakeholders internally, but also externally, grows also. That it's important to have structures that are in charge for the data policies, and to have also in place all the standards for data compliance and the governance. One of the standards that applies specifically to this area is called the shortage DMBOK. It has a very strict standards, and it has been probably already seen more than 2 versions, and is very much used by public administrations, but also by the business as such, by the business. Apologies. Are there standards that apply for portfolio management, for the IT governance, and that all comes with the data policies of the organizations, depending also what kind of capabilities, what is the governance structures. So digital transformation is not only about digitalization, but also developing effective solutions for data management, and also organizing how the people work with them, and also how stakeholders internally and externally interact, and have to be stakeholder management with all the relevant side. At the core of the digital transformation is, of course, creating capabilities. While artificial intelligence use it in a responsible way, and data analytics. I already mentioned the importance of the way data analytics could gradually come into solutions for customs. That's what comes with the possibilities that artificial intelligence brings. It seems to me also the building of the new risk management system in the future at the EU level, because the artificial intelligence comes with the implementation of artificial intelligence according to the Act, the Artificial Intelligence Act, at least in the European Union, comes with specific requirements of identifying risk. There is a red level, which is an acceptable level of risk, where there is an acceptable level of risk. There is artificial intelligence cannot be implemented, for instance, such as child abuse or inappropriate content management. Then there is a high risk, which should be subject to more strict rules, and there is more manageable risk and low risk. This type of risk management is not completely coinciding with the IT risk management that is normally employed in the customs risk management, and very much comes to the closer to more system-based approach and more wholesome, holistic requirements for management risks in the organization and for structuring the data flows and capability organizing capabilities according to these requirements. That is why its customs innovation is very much associated in with the elaboration of programs, customs innovation programs, which tackle not only strategic solutions for customs to develop and to modernize, but also for IT investment and investment programs. The World Customs Organization has made has researched into this question in the framework of the digital disruption report, the new disruptive technology report, excuse me, and it comes to the conclusion that the customs organization do not go for heavy one-off investment solutions, but more to investment management in a more agile, needs-based approach. There are further recommendations into that. I just wanted to highlight the importance of managing data policies in a more structured way and to align it also to IT investments. Next slide, please. I would like to touch upon some of the highlights of the customs reform. And let's move to the next slide. Policy transformation. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Each policy action, in fact, comes with the data management, which is specific to its solutions. We had, in the time when the European Commission developed its digital transformation agenda, for instance, we had very close collaboration with specifically with networks related to the environmental legislation, also to the publication sources because of the large number of open data that the European Commission is providing, and it comes, of course, with intellectual property requirements and so on. The European customs reform comes from didn't come from the outside, from out of the blue. It has started already almost immediately after the adoption of the Union Customs Code framework in 2016. There has been interim evaluation, several reports of the Court of Auditors, which highlighted serious issues with low value consignments and need to increase customs supervisions and to enhance customs risk management. The EU Customs in 2040 is the name of the Foresight report, which was developed by the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. And there was a wise man group which issued its conclusions in 2020. And you would see that some of the recommendations are very much implemented in them. In the solutions that are on the table now for the European legislation to adopt. The key drivers for the customs reforms are, of course, the prohibitions and restrictions on the e-commerce, as I mentioned earlier, the complex customs procedures which existed for trade and very much has difficulties to reduce the administrative burden under the current legislative setup. The digitalization is very much fragmented. The ambition of the customs reform is to have one single digital framework for the European Union. Currently there is a work program with EU-wide system for transit, import and export, also for temporary storage, and there 111 procedures which exist at the member states. The risk management as such is very much still national, despite the existence of the common risk management criteria and common risk management framework. And the reform of the risk management through the so-called ICS system, for those that are interested, could look more in the detailed documentation that is available on the subject. It moves essentially through the creation of common trade interface and allowing for multiple data filing. So the ICS2 came into several stages for different modes of transport, and it is very much focused on who has the most pertinent data for specific filing requests, whether it's the carrier or as the importer and exporter. And these solutions, both in terms of governance and in terms of data flows, has been at the core of the reform of the digital setup of the EU customs reform. And as I mentioned also several times, the customs is at the foundation of the single market. So the customs requirements very much at a prerequisite, but also they are impacted by the enforcement and the application of a number of requirements from other legislation. Next slide, please. The customs reform is not about modernizing of the legislation and changing the paradigm to the use of business data in place of the customs structured customs declaration. But it has a broader area, broader form, and in fact, customs union becomes a capability of the European Union as such and its single market. And it rests on three pillars. This is the new partnership with business, smart approach to customs check based on new IT governance structure for the digitalization of customs, but also for the emergence of true EU-wide customs risk management. And thirdly, a modernized approach to the e-commerce. I have asked the following comment. As you know, the 2016 reform was a long and troubled process. When the UC came out, it was partly in need for updates. The only system for customs declaration took years to be in full working. The new reform seems to be interesting and ambitious, how it avoids loopholes and face challenges. You are absolutely right. In fact, one of the most interesting things that you experience if you are working in customs legislation is the moment you adopt the legislation, it changes almost immediately after the adoption. Why it is so? Because in the European Union, customs is a exclusive competence. There is area, for instance, VAT, food safety, not to mention education and culture, where it's limited to the member states, but where the European Union has limited powers. When the European Union does not have an exclusive competence, it doesn't provide such a legislation, such detailed legislation. The European legislation is very voluminous and very specific. I would say that the setbacks that come with a customs reform also related to the challenges that the European Union works with 27 different member states. The challenges that the Dutch customs experience and the solutions that they have adopted are different from the solutions in Spain. And these different realities have to be brought together in order to have a common European customs union. Otherwise, this would be very costly to adopt, and also for companies who trade across the European Union, complying with different specifics of the same customs procedures, it's very difficult. That's why the voluminous and the volume of the legislation and requirements, in addition to that, there are also guidance documents that are adopted by the European Commission in specific areas, such as special procedures, transit. Every specific areas has its detailed guidance documents, make it, of course, voluminous. But customs is not without a challenge, and that's actually the idea of the customs reform, is to change the governance, not only to simplify processes, but also to change the governance and to this already would be significant step to modernize the European Customs Union. However, this would take certainly a lot of time, at least in the next 6 to 7 years. But there would be also possibility for voluntary implementation, especially from industry side. Next slide, please. In a nutshell, when we talk about the governance, the customs reform has two main structural innovations. The first innovation is the creation of the EU Customs Data Hub. In the definition of this solution is written that it is about providing common services and ensuring interoperability between customs and different agencies. The European Customs Data Hub would allow the so much discussed soft shift towards the use of a smarter time of data processing, smarter type of data processing, moving away from the structured data submission in the form of customs declaration and allowing customs to work directly with business data. If you explore the functions of digital infrastructures, that would also allow supervision of the traceability of data long time before the goods come to the border, up to the depending of the capabilities and solutions adopted, but in going as far as develop digital infrastructure that would allow tracing data to the source and having traceability and visibility as to know who has the responsibility for the data and where it could be traced. That's why the EU Customs Data Hub, in my view, it's a solution that would significantly improve data management in the customs union, because it would also provide a centralized place for customs data and would facilitate data reuse and exchange between customs services. The EU Customs Data Hub would also allow for interoperability solutions between key agencies in the European Union, in particular Interpol, Europol, the European Prosecutor Office, Frontex, which is an agency for border surveillance in the EU. The EU customs authorities which deemed to have a key role in risk management. It will oversee the EU Customs Data Hub, would be allow for customs common customs risk management, and also would be in charge for uniform operational crisis management. Next slide, please. The timeline for the EU customs reform is 2032, with the staged adoption planned for the European companies to get access to the European Data Hub already in 3 to 4 years' time. And 2038, the Data Hub is supposed to become obligatory for all businesses who import into the European Union. Next slide, please. The customs legislation is the customs reform is composed of 4 acts which are adopted the different procedure. The Union Customs Code, which is adopted by a co-legislator between the Commission proposes the legislation, and then it undergoes procedure with 2 legislative authorities, the Council and the European Parliament. Now it is at the final stage of the European Parliament, so the trilogue developing. The second regulation is adopted directly by the Council of the European Union. It is the duty relief regulation, and it contains a provision about the threshold for de minimis threshold for low value consignments. Another regulation which comes part of the reform is the combined nomenclature. It contains important rules about e-commerce, and also not only about the e-commerce data requirements, but also in terms of specific rules such as which are of direct importance for the data related to e-commerce consignments and also to insurance and transportation. Finally, it's the VAT directive, which is extension of which will extend solutions for the customs with customs relevance, and these rules are also supported with soft law rules, which are in Commission guidance documents. Next slide, please. Briefly about the changes which directly touch about VAT in the e-commerce domain. The EU customs reform proposal suggests a change into the rules about deemed importer. The online platforms will become responsible. The collection of customs duties will be already at the time of payment. Currently, there is a threshold of €150 for which customs VAT declaration is not required, but customs duties are not imposed. And this threshold will be abolished. And there is a simplified tariff classification is further envisaged. Next time, please. Excellent. I would like to briefly mention some developments which are not part of the customs reform proposal as a legislative package, which goes through the adoption of a legislative procedure and then implemented through subsequent regulatory measures and software guidance documents. However, this framework is of significant importance for customs controls because it relates to customs control equipment. This is area which directly is of importance for customs supervision and the detection of illicit goods and illicit goods and smuggling across borders. If you'd be interested, I just list the legislation because this is a framework which covers several rules which are managed by different Commission services. At the left corner, you see IBMF. This is Integrated Border Management Fund, which supports financially the customs control equipment instrument. You see to the right. The customs control equipment instrument is a legal act managed by Digitax with the European Commission. However, it's not about providing direct funding for customs control equipment, but it is also about also a policy document. Some of the areas of this control equipment not only provides a strategic position about common customs control and risk management in the way customs control equipment is used, but it also provides also very much specific funding solutions, in particular the possibility of customs to use joint procurement. Joint procurement is an instrument which is very valuable for customs innovation across the world. It supports also in other jurisdictions in the US in the different forms. And joint procurement also is instrument which facilitates also the green transition and the rules that support solutions from business side that are more environmental friendly. So this is very interesting. If you would like to read more about the customs control equipment instrument, to see also its work program and the way it implements the financial rules and the procurement procedures. It has its specific solutions in terms of governance because of this specific combination of using instruments of different policy objectives, such as border management in terms of more related to the movements of people, and the use of interaction with other policy and financial instruments. Next slide, please. So I would say something about green and sustainable customs, which I already touched upon in previous slides. So I'll just wrap up and try to make it a bit more um, more succinct form. So the green customs has been very strongly on the policy agenda in the last 2-3 years. For those who are interested, in 2022, there was a conference of the World Customs Organization dedicated to green customs, with where speakers from different areas, in particular illegal logging, waste management, environmental standards, standards for the circular economy, which are developed by the International Standards Organization, have discussed at length solutions. So it's a very rich, very rich set of materials for the ambitious green agenda where customs interact. However, the green agenda comes not from out of the blue and because of the regulatory requirements that creep on the border all the time. It's directly related to the implementation of the UN Sustainability Agenda. The UN Sustainability Agenda is associated to a set of 17 agenda goals, which are grouped in separately and have their own set of rules and standards. They range from environmental protection, climate protection, to human rights, and dealing with equality of citizens. So the sustainability requirements comes from the international obligations for the individual countries in the world. But the European Union, as I mentioned in previous slides, has developed an ambitious Green Deal agenda, which has set ambitious deadline for climate change, and to also a big set of 55 group specific legislation in various areas such as waste management, batteries, elaboration of digital standards, digital passports, eco standards, and these all measures that manufacturers take into account and implement into their programs and compliance rules. The technology advancement facilitates the adoption of the green agenda, of the green policies. And also one hidden gem of technology advancement is the so-called leapfrogging for countries, organizations who perhaps are a bit late with digital transformation, technology advancement. They could the chance, as the solutions develop so quickly, to adopt more advanced solutions, and then that would and to align to more advanced organizations. The sustainability, of course, is at the core of the public administrations, with several programs that support green budgeting, capacity building, into a series of operations of customs administrations and their policies and actions. Recently, the European Union adopted the due diligence rules, which put sustainability into enforceable actions for the corporate level, and also the corporate social responsibility agenda. One of the aspects, for instance, of due diligence and corporate social responsibility is the so-called measures against greenwashing, which are for companies that try to present that they pursue a green policy agenda without it being such in practice. One of the way to tackle this issue is to align business processes and in a way that's traceable and transparent. So through quality data at the source, to be able to assess the true compatibility of standards. The other instruments that very much helps to to adopt to enforce the rules are the use of digital passports in the manufacturing supply chain, which give this visibility and traceability of data which is relevant for the regulators. And finally, I would mention again the post-COVID resilient and sustainable recovery agenda, where the measures such as the green corridors and intensive use of public-private partnerships to step up solutions have very much facilitated the elaboration of measures that seem to have stayed in practice in different jurisdictions. And finally, of course, it's the investment policy that these reforms have to be used to supported by adequate financing, and the way the investment agenda is elaborated and adopted very much stimulates innovation and digital transformation. This need for smart investment policies and that allow funds to be deployed where most needed, to have agility and also to have accountability in the use of public funding. Next slide, please. So it's of course a role of the regulators to step up on the enforcement of the legislation, and the list of legislations that you will see on the left is associated very often with data models, with data structures that are aligned with customs, and this is a gradual process which allows interoperability, data reuse, and data exchange. And solutions, of course, such as in the window, digital infrastructures and capabilities. Next slide, please. Next slide. Some words to say about the new partnership with between customs and trade. It starts digitally in the area of digital collaborations for the development of the EU Customs Data Hub, which is at the center of the governance for the proposed reform in the European Union. It's secondly, it is related to the trust and check trader system. This concept builds upon the well-known authorized economic operator. However, it combines also different, in addition to that, it has solutions such as separating the flow of goods and the controls of different types of traders, and increasing the benefits for compliant traders, developing giving more and more beneficial treatment to compliant traders, and enhancing the solutions which are now in the criteria which are now in place, also taking into account specific specific business models, and stimulating also new business models. And finally, one of solutions that strongly is a flagship priority for the European Commission, but it is also well known across the world, especially in the Asian countries, but also in America, in Canada, I believe, and also in many other countries in the world. This is the single window solution. Next slide, please. And for just to supplement what I've said about the trust and check traders, they also development of centralized clearance, which was already existed under the Union Customs Code, but not fully developed, especially as self-assessment. It's in its self-assessment part, and now with the trust and check category, there is the opportunity to allow for compliant traders which are eligible and certified for this tech category to perform certain actions also on behalf of customs. That opens the door for simplifications that already exist in the customs legislation, but in order to be used, they would need more more authorization for trusted traders. And such solutions such as clearing India, for instance, having processing of data before the goods arrive at the customs. Next slide, please. The EU single window environment for customs is a flagship project. It has been developed following the example of the maritime single window, but it is different, especially for the customs environment. It has two main stages. For the first stage, which is now elaborated, is the fact that national customs system from different member states, they use the business they use the capability of the developed by DigiTaxud, through which business and technical data is transformed and then submitted to in compliance with specific requirements to systems which are non-customs, and they're managed by different services of the European Commission, which are responsible for different separate IT systems. And this system, for instance, is Traces, which is used for risk management for the veterinary legislation. The DigiClima also has a separate system for F-gases, and DG Agri for the organic labeling, or DG Trade for the dual use goods. In the next stage of the European single window, next slide, please. This is the list, just before moving to the next slide. This is the list of systems, which are two types. On the left-hand side, these are systems which are mandatory for individual member states of the European Union to align to the single window, and to the right hand, the additional systems. This is discretionary. The member states would integrate these requirements to their specific national custom single window on a voluntary basis. So what is obligatory is of course the Traces, the DG Agri for the control of certification of organic project, and also the import system, which is for cultural goods and the ozone depleting substances. The integration of the requirements to the single window environment for customs requires working with the data models and aligning data requirements under two different types of legislation. That's one of the reasons why, from the business process perspective, the working with prohibitions and restrictions, which exemplified in this slide, is such a daunting challenge for customs. Next slide, please. In the next stage for the custom single window, then it would facilitate, in fact, the direct submission to the capability developed by Taxud, which is the central EU level capability, the custom single window for SecTex, and this is up for the European Union level to make a direct interface of non-custom systems such as Traces, Klima and F-gases portal of DigiClima. So this is movement from government to government to directly business to government, and would significantly facilitate the use of the data flows and compliance requirements for business. In fact, it is envisaged also in the European customs reform that a single window will interface, and the data hub will interface with the existing port community system, which which are the port and airport community systems, which now exist in many of the member states. Next slide, please. Now, maybe it goes without mentioning, but the role that business plays now in the discussions and the framing of the new solutions requires not simply alignment, bringing their requirements to the requirements of under the customs legislation as close as possible to the solution and the supply chain implementation, alignment of business processes, but also requirements such as due diligence responsibilities that comes not only from the green and sustainable requirements, but also for the emerging artificial intelligence responsiveness regulation and the ever more requirements that come from different regulations and also from policy agenda as such. Next slide, please. So open for further discussions. Maybe this would be part and parcel of our practicums. But some of the questions that we might have for the future is, of course, how to create the better data compliance and enforcement programs. What are the benefits and the challenges to extend supply chain supervision while securing quality of data at the source and ensuring its traceability and visibility. And finally, designing innovation programs which within build cooperation, innovation cooperation between institutions and also governments. I'm opening for your suggestions and comments. Emma, are you with me?
I am. Would you like to create
perhaps we could give a short break and then a break up for practicum?
Yeah, that would be great. Do you think 10 minutes?
For me, it's fine. For the so I have it's just a question, a minute late.
Yeah.
What are the big issues or critics with IO about need to upgrade IO? Can you give an example to gender and this implemented? In fact, there has been several stages of the authorized economic operators. Firstly, it is so currently the IO program has two streams. One is for safety and security requirements. This is a different data flow from the data flow of customs clearance. I trust this knowledge, but happy to explain if anybody of you would have questions for that. So when the goods arrived at the border, there is a safety and security data flows, which is entry summary declaration, and there is data requirements which are associated with the customs clearance import declaration. So the authorized economic operator has two sets of requirements. One is for simplifications for safety and security clearance and simplification for the customs clearance. And there is also a combined IO. In addition to that, there have been requirements which are specifically adapted to express couriers and the postal operators. But as I see, you correctly remark that one of the ideas is to improve the IO status and to actually upgrade it into the trust and check traders. This name is not very good sounding. However, what matters is the substance, of course. It comes from the green requirement. So one of the things that have been discussed, maybe not officially as in terms of direct legislative proposal, but broadly in the customs community, is to have perhaps green IO status as such, meaning to have special benefits for customs that have a green agenda. The upgrade of the IO is direct result of the different solutions that are already implied in customs administrations. For instance, you may find videos and materials the way Dutch customs separate the flows of different traders depending on their compliance level. So the more specific requirements there are for traders in order to identify them as eligible for benefits, that's more useful for customs to diminish the checks on such traders and to focus their resources where they're needed. That's why the upgrade of the IO requirements, in fact, is very natural because it facilitates, make them more explainable for operators and makes the benefits more tangible as such. I believe that's quite important for the implementation of the program, which I remember had some setbacks back in time when it was implemented, but lessons learned through practice.